With this journey that you've been on already, if you was doing it all over again, like today, what would you change? What would you do differently?
I think I'd take more risks. Just think about being a producer, not a consumer. If you like social media, great. How can you be a producer of content on social media rather than a consumer? £10,000 a month of positive cash flow makes life a lot easier.
Are there any locations right now that you'd be looking at?
I think if people are starting out, locations really should be.
Our next guest has got 3 decades of experience in the property world. He's also got his own TV channel on Sky called The Property Elevator. Please welcome Ranjan Bhattacharya.
Great to see you, Sean. How you doing?
Yeah, lovely to see you as well. This is a real, pinch yourself moment, because throughout lockdown, all I was doing was watching your videos on YouTube.
Lockdown was an interesting period, wasn't it?
100. I was seeing you take people who were washing car businesses and you're taking them to do commercial to residential projects and stuff. Talk to us a little bit about that time.
Lockdown was very interesting. I am not the kind of guy that wants to take no for an answer. I hated the idea of lockdown. I hated the idea of being told what to do. So we have a YouTube channel, more than 60,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
grew a lot during lockdown. But one of the things I noticed was that there was an exemption for journalism and media. To basically work during lockdown and maintain their offices and have staff going in and all of that. And I thought, well, people go into the office to produce the one show. That's a load of shite. Surely that's not an essential service. If people can do the one show, surely there's something journalistic that we could do. So that's when we started a program on YouTube called Property Breaking News. We thought, news affecting the property industry, COVID that hits people, because tenants couldn't view properties, landlords couldn't maintain properties, it was lockdown. So we thought, okay, we'll put this journalistic, we'll wear the journalism hat. That's the way to keep our office fully staffed, fully functioning, and going through the COVID crisis perfectly legally, following all the rules. And I think that's very much how I kind of think. You want to keep going, you want to push ahead, you want to do what you want to do, and you find a way to do it.
Where does that come from?
Always, really. That's how I've thought. I mean, I always say that you can tell how a kid is going to do when they're growing up, because you'll see a sign that says no ball games allowed. So you can do a couple of things. You can sit inside and do nothing and get totally bored. You can go out there, kick a football around and break all the rules. Or you can go out there and play badminton. Still having fun, not breaking any rules, within all the rules that are set, but you're doing your thing. So that is the mindset that you've got to bring to anything, whether it's property investing, business, whatever you want to do. If you want to push ahead, it's not taking no for an answer, but not breaking rules at the same time.
Well, Ranjan, I've got a lot of respect for you, and I know you've got an immense amount of experience, which is why I'm going to try to pick your brains a little bit even more. And
don't pick my nose. Pick my brain, but don't pick my nose.
Right. I'm 19 right now. I'm on a council estate. I might not be in the best, sort of audience or crowd. Maybe even my parents might not be a good role model. And, life is a little bit negative because I haven't been dealt the best cards. It's hard getting my concentration right in school. I haven't got the right environment when I go home. There's, other people shouting and screaming around me. So that's my childhood right now at 19. What am I doing? How do I get in the right circles? How do I start, changing my thinking? Because life hasn't gone my way anyway.
Well, if those guys are watching this, I mean, they're already thinking in the right type of mindset, because I tell you, it's a lot harder way back 30 years ago than it is today. I mean, if you are that kid in that scenario that you just painted 30 years ago, that's it. That's your world. You don't know, or you haven't been exposed to anyone else. These days, today, through YouTube and the like, you are exposed to all sorts of people who are not your parents, people who are not in your parents' social circle, people who are not in the circle of your local proximity of where you live. So you have the ability to be inspired by a wide variety of people in any field. It was only a few years ago you were fed what was put out in the media, in the mainstream media, and your immediate circle. And if that didn't inspire you, tough. And many people didn't get anywhere because they didn't know what was possible. Everyone has today in their phone is exposure to what's possible. That's what people didn't even have 30 years ago.
That's a really, really awesome tip you've just shared there. You started investing in property in the early 90s, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah? What inspired you to get into real estate?
I mentioned this actually when your son asked a question at Baker Street.
Yeah.
It was getting a Monopoly set at the age of 8.
Yes.
Monopoly is a fantastic game. First of all, you don't get anywhere. It teaches you everything you need to know. You get nothing in Monopoly by just going around collecting your £200 salary. You will get screwed because you land on other people's properties and it will all go out. The only way to win at Monopoly is to own income-generating assets. That's the key thing that it teaches you to do. And it also teaches you to kind of, that little rule book that comes with the Monopoly set, rip it up. Well, not rip it up, follow the rules, but it says a load of things that you can't do. But there are a whole bunch of things that it doesn't tell you that you can't do in Monopoly. For example, if we're playing as a group and I've got Bond and Regent Street, and you've got, if you've got Bond and Regent Street and I've got Oxford Street and you want that off me, I'll give it to you, but I want total exemption from landing on any of your houses and hotels. And I want 40% of the rent that you earn from the other players. Now, that's not in the rules to say you can't do that. It's a creative structure. And it really gets your mind flowing and teaches you all you need to know. So Monopoly is a great starting point for kids. I think doing any kind of side hustle is phenomenally important. I think one thing I was always doing is doing side hustles. And I always say, and this is actually true across every single country in the world, if you look at really successful people that have done well in business, look at how old they were when they made the first 100 of whatever currency the country has that they live in. If it's 12, 13, then those tends to be the people that
So what was some of What were some of your first side hustles?
Oh, side hustles. In my day, it was a lot more complicated. My first side hustles were selling golf balls, did car washing. And then when I was 13, 14, I did computer games. So I wrote computer games for things like ZX Spectrums and Commodore 64s, which if you know what those are, then just leave your comment below and all the rest of it. And then I started buying the copyright for computer games that were coded by other kids. Wow. So I'd pay them a fixed fee and I'd buy the copyright and I'd put them on compilation tapes and discs. So we'd sell 50 game compilations at Christmas time. And, when I went to school as a sixth form, I learned to drive at 17. I was the only sixth former in my school that went to school in a brand new car paid for from my own resources.
Wow.
And I had a better car than most of my teachers.
Wow.
But that came from side hustles. But, and I've done loads of side hustles, like importing computers from America during my university years. But today, side hustles are so much simpler with the internet. I was telling this a teenager the other day who is quite into doing gym stuff and all the rest of it. And, he's started posting all this stuff on Instagram of, just working out in the gym and all of that. And he's getting some views and all of that. Well, one of the simplest things you could do is just sign up as an affiliate for someone that has some product that's that audience is interested in. And then you start monetizing these posts that you're doing anyway. These days, we have so many options for people to do side hustles. It's far easier than it ever was before.
I think what it actually stems down to, Ranjan, is mindset, because a lot of you can sit with two. You could sit with twins, but born in totally different environments. And one says, "There's nothing out there. European people are taking all our jobs. I'm out of time." I've heard stuff like that come out, or they end up doing a little bit of extra hard work, and then they get the jobs rather than us, and we just want to get our wages. And then you meet somebody else who's like exactly what you're saying, who's just looking. They're looking for the opportunities. They're going on social media, TikTok, looking at shops and Etsy, whatever the new sort of platforms are. How does somebody begin to start having sort of positive mindset rather than vibrating on negativity?
Positive mindset, negative mindset. I think this, we talk about, social media, we talk about a whole bunch of things that you can do. Just think about being a producer, not a consumer. When you're consuming something, that's great. Now think about how you can produce it. If you like social media, great. How can you be a producer of content on social media rather than a consumer?
Mm-hmm.
You're renting a place, great. How can you actually be a producer of that? A landlord, be on the other side of the fence. I think that's the mindset to have. You have that producer mindset.
Mm. You seem to be like a successful person, even from a very young age, from 13, and you've been producing, as you say, and buying copyright, which is working really smart. People think it's really easy at the top, and it's so much harder when you're at the bottom. And I think a little bit opposite. I think it's actually easier being at the bottom, than being at the top, because all eyes are on you. People are always saying, you're this, you've got money, it's easy for you, you're rich. What's your opinion on that?
And you're never at the top. It's a journey. What's the point, if there's no journey? And it's always, and I think that's just another mindset. It's always easier for the other guy. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own challenges.
How do you deal with that when people, give you negativity? I've seen you in protests back in July. You were next to Embankment, and people saying, you landlords are scum. You're not providing housing. You're taking away housing, and you're standing there and basically saying, well, actually, I'm taking defunct buildings that was never going to be originally be used for residential, and I'm turning it into purposeful, places where people can live. And then people are saying on top of that, well, you're doing it for the luxury people, people who can actually afford it. And it's like, hey, hang on, this is a private sector. I don't make the rules of the game up. I just follow them. Do you know what I mean? How do you deal with stuff like that?
Well, I think that is a fantastic example, actually. So that was a protest. I intervened in the protest. Police had to intervene to kind of make sure I was okay. It got reported in the national newspapers and that kind of stuff. And there were some clips on social media about it. So it's interesting. There's exactly the same clip of me saying what I said. When I put that out to a property or investor and business audience, it got completely different comments, likes, tons and tons of likes, reshares, very positive, supporting comments. When the people that took that footage put it out on their platforms, it was, he's a scumbag, he's deluded, who is this guy? He's talking utter nonsense, So there are a whole bunch of people who have preset mindsets. You're never going to get everybody to like what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You're never going to, if you're starting with that as an objective, then forget it. You're doomed to failure. Those people are not my audience, it's the people. You've got to kind of decide who your audience is, or who your customers are, or whoever it is that you're serving are. And make sure that whatever message you have, whatever product you have, whatever service you have, is designed to be the best of breed for that audience, and forget about the rest, because you never please everybody. It's impossible.
I've seen you're bulletproof on stages, on your YouTube channels, on podcasts. Where does that confidence come from?
I'm not sure whether it's confidence. I think it's just you enjoy what you're doing. You enjoy what you're doing. You have passion for what you do.
And
you get me to talk about fishing, and I'll be a complete wet fish, quite frankly. But you get me to talk about business. You get me to talk about property. It's something that I'm excited about. Mm-hmm. And I know you're asking some good questions to get some discussions and stuff like that. But particularly questions where people are saying, you can't do this or you can't do that, or what about people who are limited by this, limited by that. I think if you start believing that you can't, then you won't. You haven't got a hope in hell of succeeding if you start from that mindset. It's got to be that you can and you will.
Yeah, well, that was a mic drop moment. Definitely. Do you know what? I know you're the real deal, because even an entrepreneur that came on the first 5 episodes, which was like 45 episodes ago, he came and he goes, "Oh, you know Ranjan?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen his YouTube stuff. I like it." He goes, "I was fitting carpets for that guy 20 years ago in prime locations." So I know you're worth quite a bit. Yeah. What keeps you going? You know, like in terms of, when is it enough?
When is what enough? Because when you're dead, you're dead. If you stop, if you stop moving, if you stop doing anything, then what do you do? I did say earlier, you do what you enjoy, what you're passionate about. So when is enough enjoyment? When is feeling passionate about something enough? It never is, really. As long as you're breathing and you've got life in you, why wouldn't you pursue your passions?
Absolutely. What do you
I know what you're referring to. You're talking about enough in terms of money.
Well, yeah, like because some people get lost in it. I
don't get that, really. I mean, I think it's all about, it's all about what you need to live a comfortable life. And I think when people are starting out in business, the first milestone is that £10,000 a month. £10,000 a month of positive cash flow makes life a lot easier. And then, if people get to 25, 30,000, because from getting to 10 to 25, 30,000 a month is not that actually complicated. It's far easier to get from 10,000 to 30,000 than it is from 0 to 10. But once you're at that 30,000 level, there's not really that much you need that you can't actually accomplish. So then it is pure passion, enjoyment, journey, and fulfilling your own plan.
Yeah. Well, with this journey that you've been on already, if you was doing it all over again, like today, what would you change? What would you do differently?
I think I'd take more risks. I think I've always been very conservative. And a lot of people ask me, well, what property projects have gone wrong? And I can't really point to many I can't point to any property projects that have gone wrong. Everything's gone great. But that is also not that great. Which actually means that I haven't pushed myself enough. I haven't. I've probably played it too safe. And if I'd pushed myself more, I would have tested my limits here and there. I'd have breached my limits here and there and known how far I could take it.
So from planning permission, you've really exposed PD rights. And with PD rights, you've been able to, overturn a lot of these planning permissions in terms of you've been so successful. So where you say that, you haven't had many, you haven't taken many risks, in my opinion, it might not even be that. It's the fact that you've mastered the game in terms of PD rights. How do you stop your sort of planning permission, being chucked out or being declined, really? Because the way you go in it through PD rights, a lot of people are afraid to buy a bank and to make units 37 square meters because they go in something to do with light or something to do with the street that we're on is gonna get declined for a certain reason. How do you mitigate, hedge yourself against application not being declined through PD?
I think with PD and permitted development and planning permission are two different things. The trouble with planning permission is that you can train yourself up and equip yourself with a lot of knowledge, but it's still up to the opinion of a planning officer. Yeah, they have local plans and this and that, but they're so subjective, the interpretation of those, that it's still up to their opinion. The great thing about permitted development is that it's a checklist system. You tick all the boxes and they cannot oppose it. Even though they may want to, they can't oppose it. And that's the completely different emphasis. So I'm not saying permitted development is easy just to go ahead and do it. You need knowledge. You need to be trained on it. You need to know what sites that you're going to buy that you can get permitted development on easily, and what sites is just too complicated, there are too many grey areas, and you should actually avoid, and focus your energies on the sites that will just go straight through. That needs a little bit of knowledge. But once you have that knowledge, once you have that training and expertise, it's not up to someone sitting in some council ivory tower to make some subjective viewpoint, which can vary from planning officer to planning officer and council to council. That bit of uncertainty is removed. That's what I love about permitted development.
Can you talk to us about one of your projects that have gone really, like one of your favorite projects?
One of my favorite projects, but I think, what I love is the recession. My favorite projects are all around recession, times of recession, early 1990s, and also from 2009 onwards, because it's a complete buyer's market, and it's what we're entering into right now. It's a complete buyer's market. The days of sellers saying offers above and beyond this price and 30 people bidding for it and sealed bids and all of that, those days are over. And what happens is that property that is slightly unusual, slightly quirky, that people can't see the value in straight away. That needs a little bit of skill and knowledge to kind of unlock what that value is. Because the great thing about defunct commercial buildings, you walk around them and you think, what's the use of this? You've got to have a huge amount of vision. If you go around a shabby 3-bedroom end of terrace, it's still going to be a clean, smart 3-bedroom end of terrace. You're not fundamentally changing its use when you do a lick of paint, new bathroom, new kitchen. But when you take a former commercial building, you're completely changing the way that space is going to be used. And people can't envisage that. So therefore, they value it based on what it is today. And those values, particularly in a recession, with the number of buyers that are available, are relatively low. So your competition is low. So you can buy properties really, really cheap. And then when you convert them to a different use, it's being valued on that new usage. And if that usage brings in a cash flow, that allows you to pull out a lot of your money. So when I talk about no money left in deals, deals when I've pulled out my money from the deals, and pulled out more than my money, more than my capital from those deals, I've done most of those deals in recessions rather than in boom times. Because in the boom times, there are too many people taking a punt. Because when you've got the wind in your sails, people know that next year prices are going to be 7-8% up anyway, even if they do nothing. And that gives them a little bit of artificial confidence, I think, just to do it.
Are there any locations right now that you'd be looking at? That maybe somebody watching say, yeah, maybe I might have a little look at that location to see where there's more opportunity.
I think if people are starting out, locations really should be within an hour's commuting distance, and then numbers. And unless you're in the Outer Hebrides, you should be able to find somewhere hour's commuting distance where the numbers stack up.
What do you think of like people who are living in London and say it's too expensive right now, and they're looking at Newcastle or Liverpool where it might be 75 to 85,000? They go, I'm going to get a management company to manage that for me. Like, is that our approach that you're?
Look, I haven't done it. You can do it, but I've always believed that if you can't make money in your own backyard, then to think that you're going to do it 300 miles away is a little bit fanciful. What I think it does is it forces you to be more creative. And I think what people are looking at when they go up north is those people are looking at Newcastle. How many of those deals are that creative? They're just a 2-bedroom up and down and rented out or whatever, quick lick of paint, bathroom job. Nothing's creative. No, you cannot do that sort of uncreative, vanilla, buy-to-let type of deal in higher value areas. You have to be more creative with what you do with the property, in terms of the end game, and also how you structure the deal and how you purchase the deal. You have to be a lot more creative with that.
Well, all over social media right now, I'm seeing get into property with no money. So how do I do that? How do I get into property with no money?
Well, you see, no money is possible. The thing is how repeatable that strategy is, whether you could do, 3 deals a month like that. We've all done no money deals. On the Property Elevator show, which is on Sky TV, most of those guys are coming in and pitching no money down deals for them. Because how do you fund a deal? You fund it with a mixture of loan, money, and you have to fund it with equity. And that equity can either be yours or someone else's. But you have to be putting something into the party, into the deal. Right. Is that time? Is that skill? Some people come on Property Elevator and they've got no time. They've got no skill. They've got no particular knowledge to bring to the table. And they're after, all the investment from one of the angels on the show. And you have to argue then that, well, what you're doing apart from being a deal sourcer in that scenario, the people that do well on that show are coming in. Yes, they've found a deal, but they've got some skill and some knowledge, but they don't have all the capital. Mm-hmm. So they're getting, say, 60, 70% from a lender on loan, and they're getting equity investment from the angels on the show, and they're putting in time, skill, knowledge to do that deal, make some money, but without putting in their own cash.
Very well put. I like that. So tell us, Ranjan, how did you get your own TV sort of program, or be one of the judges on the Property Elevator? How did you get into that?
Well, in all honesty, John Howard, who is one of my fellow angels on the show, good friend, he came up with the idea for this show, and I was at an event with him, and we were both panelists, Q&A and all of that, and I was sitting next to him on a stool. And I thought he talked some sense. He obviously thought I talked some sense. We got chatting afterwards and got involved. I thought it was a great thing to do.
How is TV different?
To what?
To normal real life?
It's not. Because I think these days, now, of course, I'm part owner of the production company that produces that show. So we're in season 7 now. And we've got another one next year as well. So it's still going strong. It's very, very popular, actually, because it's a good way of learning how people analyze deals and the cut and thrust of are they going to get investment or not, and all of that really, really, really turns people on. But I think at the same time, it's as natural as possible, because the cameras these days are so small, and with zoom lenses, they're so out of the way that when people come and pitch a deal, it literally feels that you're just having a conversation with the angels. It's not like, what people used to see in 1970s with big, massive cameras like Daleks or whatever that slided around floors. It's not like that. Yeah.
Looks like you enjoy variety. You like doing different things. One
Absolutely.
minute you're on YouTube, 1 minute you're on a judging panel. You recently was you at the awards as well?
Yes. Property Investor Awards. Been doing that for about a decade now.
Yeah. What do you enjoy about it most?
What I learned from it, because we get like at this year's Property Investor Awards, more than 300 people or property deals have been nominated in all sorts of different categories. So if you're judging, say, best HMO of 2023, that is the creme de la creme of HMO deal and HMO entrepreneurs that have become finalists for this award. So you're seeing, and to get there, they're not doing vanilla stuff. They're doing out-of-the-box stuff. They're doing something creative. There's some oomph to what they're doing that makes that award winning. And to be involved in the judging, and to be on that judging panel and get exposure to what the creme de la creme of property entrepreneurs are doing in all sorts of different fields. I tell you, there's not one judge that goes away from the judging process not learning something from what all these finalists are doing.
So from this year, can you share something that you've actually personally learned and said, actually, I might have another go at that because I didn't know how lucrative that was, or I didn't look at it from that angle?
Yes, there's several things that I did pick up, but since the final is not out on yet, it's in a month's time, I don't really want to say too much.
All right, that's fair enough.
But yes, there are several things that I've actually implemented. There's one thing in particular I've implemented from
amazing
from that day.
Ranjan, we're just a little bit short of time today. I want to get you and Andrew on together as well. Is there one final message that you'd personally like to say to the viewers?
I think, this is recorded at the end of 2023. I think 2024 is going to be one of the most exciting times to invest in property ever. I have had a lot of fun in recessions, and the climate I see in 2024 is going to be the best fun ever for property entrepreneurs in particular, rather than regular business people. A lot of stars are aligning right now. And that's really going to be the main focus of what we do on YouTube and with Baker Street, just sharing with people how they can get involved in all of that and have a lot of fun and make a lot of money doing that journey.
What's next for you?
What's next? In terms of?
You've done so many things, judging panels, TV shows, you do commercial to residential. The world is changing.
I am looking forward to this recession. I really am. We're already in it, but the recessions that I've played with before, to be honest, figuring it out as you go along. And in my mind, I see how this next few years is going to play out. Everything is repeating. And now I feel I know what I need to do at exactly the right time. So I've had my practice runs on two previous recessions.
Yes. Now's
the time to really make hay from that.
Wow, really exciting. If you just let the audience know how they can follow you.
Ranjan Property, or Succeed in Property, the YouTube channel, or on Instagram, TikTok, and all of that.
Yeah. And a little bit about your property meet.
Baker Street Property Meet. We get 300 people a month. We're at a brand new venue now opposite Great Portland Street Tube Station. I think we gather, we aim to give you the best speakers. We aim to give you the best networking experience. We get people from all over the country come. It's a real sort of national meet. And when you come, I recommend you don't just stick with a clique, but you've got to get out there and press a bit of flesh and meet people, because everyone I talk to has met someone that has taken their business forward or taken their personal life forward through a Baker Street interaction.
Yeah, you've got tons of value in that one. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you really enjoyed that. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button, leave Ranjan a comment, and share this with somebody who really needs to hear this today. So see you on the next one. Peace.